January 31st, 2018. A Costa DC meeting is now called to order. I'd like to ask Director Bill Dindal to lead us in prayer this morning.
Would you pray with me? Father, we just thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for this time to come together to discuss the business at hand for the City of San Angelo Development Corporation. Lord, please keep our minds clear, make our decisions right for the future of San Angelo. And Lord, we ask that you bless this city in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now we're moving on to public comment. Issues or items that are not on the agenda may be raised by the podium at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, beginning by stating their name and limited remarks to less than 3 minutes. Board members may request that a discussed item be placed on a future agenda. The board takes public comment on all regular agenda items during discussion of those items.
Good morning, Ed.
Good morning.
Kevin Dozeral, Hydraulic Industrial Services, San Angelo, Texas. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies, everybody for coming. This wonderful day. Everybody see that full moon this morning? It disappeared by 7 a.m. I'm here just to bring a concern that I've noticed to y'all. Maybe you can help pass on the concern. I have some friends, some manufacturers that build products for me, some customers on Bell Street. And they're about to undergo a brief, if not extended, issue with the new street being put in. We're worried about their water, their sewer, and access for customers to come and do business with them and for their vendors to get in and out. And we're not talking pickup trucks, we're talking semis, large vehicles. They, at least the few I've talked to, haven't had communication to give them an understanding of what they're about to experience. They're a little bit worried about their life, their business, their prosperity, and they would certainly like to participate in the prosperity that a majority of us are receiving now. So if y'all can help open a dialogue to them to ensure a smooth transition, or at least tell them what's about to happen so that they can deal with reality, I would really greatly appreciate that. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
I have one comment that didn't make the agenda. I did attend the Ports to Plains Conference in Amarillo last week, and y'all may have seen the report that was both passed around and published. San Angelo Live, I know, covered it. At this point, really not anything to report. We are preparing for a Washington trip in April, and much like the I-14 report that we'll hear today. And that's really all I have to report from that trip.
Thank you, John. Any other public comment? Okay, we are now going to close public comment and move on to our consent agenda. Consider approving the December 13, 2017 and January 5th, 2018 board workshop minutes, and consider approving the necessary corporation disbursements. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Motion carries. Now moving on to regular agenda, line item A, presentation on the recent Texas Department of Transportation announcement to rebuild 91 miles of the South Orient Rail Line, presented by Elizabeth Grindstaff, Vice President, Sales and Marketing for Texas Pacifico. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Good morning.
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 Okay, very glad to be here. You going to introduce me or introduce the issue, or I'll just take off?
That's fine. So the month of November, we had a sort of rail staking event at the South Orient Railroad Museum, at the museum. And we had colleagues, elected officials from up and down the South Orient Rail Line. And I thought it was a significant event in terms of what the meaning of the new 91 miles worth of refurbishment means to our community and to South Orient and our economic success in the region. And so I asked Texas Pacifico to come today to speak on that those improvements to that infrastructure.
Good morning. If you don't know, my name is Elizabeth Grindstaff, and I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Texas Pacifico Railroad. And since I came to work for Texas Pacifico we've seen a lot of changes. But I'd like to remind you a little bit about who we are if you haven't seen my presentation before. We are a very, very small part of an organization named Grupo Mexico. And Grupo Mexico's major holdings are in mining, actually. They're one of the largest copper producers in the world. They do have also a transportation interest and own 2 Class I railroads in Mexico known as Ferromex and Ferrosur. And they also have a company called EMEX, which is in the service industry, and as well as Texas Pacifico. And really, Texas Pacifico is tiny in the organization, but we are very proud to say we also have the best operating ratio of any of their other companies. They also have an interest in infrastructure, in construction and drilling, but that is a very, very small part of who they are. Just to give you an idea of our performance since we were created in 2001, you can see those car counts beginning in 2001 with just 1,700 car counts. And then you can see something happened between 2011 and 2012, and that was called fracking technology implemented in West Texas. And so and I can hear the train in the background. So from 2012, I planned that, of course. So from 2012 to 2013, 14, 15, you saw an increase in car counts. And rather strangely, a big jump between 15 and 16, even though the price of oil was not really rising at the same rate. And that was because the fracking technology was being sort of used more and more. Rather than starting new wells, the fracking became more intensive. And the production and the yield was greater. And so there was still a lot of activity, of course, in our region. 2017 ended with over 44,000 cars. So you can see a pretty significant jump. Keep going, train. It's a good sound when you hear it blowing. Our line, just to remind you, we start at what's called the San Angelo Junction near Coleman or Santa Ana, and our rail line goes all the way to Presidio, and then we'll connect when the international bridge is rebuilt into the Ferromex system, and first and foremost, the most significant community that it goes into out of Presidio, Ojinaga, is Chihuahua City, where there is a very significant amount of industrial activity. To the north, we interchange with the BNSF, which you see the line in yellow, as well as the Fort Worth and Western, which looks to be kind of a magenta. And from the Fort Worth and Western, which moves cars back into Fort Worth, they interchange there with the KCS, Kansas City Southern, as well as the Union Pacific. So again, we have direct access to the BNSF, KCS, UP, Fort Worth and Western, and in a couple of years, intersecting again with the Ferromex. You can imagine that the significance of our commodities that we move are related to oil and gas. Probably 90% of the cars that we move, if not 95, if you count the gas line pipe that we've moved for gas line transmission into Mexico, is related to the oil and gas industry. So just to give you a quick overview of what we are, our profile, we're about 391 miles. Right now we're running 28 locomotives. We have spent, or will spend as of 2017, $103 million in the line. I talked to you about the Class 1 connections. You've seen the car volumes, and ton miles is kind of a rail, it's kind of a rail discussion, but I'll tell you that we've moved over 4.5 million tons of frac sand in the last few years, and approximately 10 different industry types that we serve. So Roland's interest was in hearing a little bit more about the TxDOT award and what is going on with the investment in the rail. One of the most significant investments will be the rebuilding of the Presidio International Bridge. This is something that I've been talking to y'all about now for a couple of years. And you know, sometimes progress is slow and frustrating. We've had to get a new permit for the bridge. Now, not a presidential permit, But of course, to rebuild, you still have to go through a federal permitting process. We've done that on both sides of the river, in Mexico as well as in the U.S. And quite frankly, we didn't really have any hiccups other than a decision to redesign the bridge and meet new federal standards that were implemented after Katrina. So all that talk is about that bridge that you see over there to the right. The right side is the Mexican side, and the bottom is the American side. And what we have is nothing, because there was a historic timber bridge that burned, and the Mexican side was concrete. So of course their side did not burn. So what's going to happen now is there's going to be a reconstruction, and the top side, the south side, will be destroyed, and a new bridge will be rebuilt approximately 8 feet higher. And if you can imagine, in railroading, you can't have a steep grade. Trains don't like that. So the bridge itself is a much larger project, just to meet the grade of a new 8-foot higher finish grade. Here is an approximate schedule. The design was completed in 2016, and permitting was just finishing up. And the bid award, we think the bidding could start in April and award as early as July, with construction in or about August of 2018, which would have us an operational bridge in about 2019 first quarter. So on to the money. This is what Mr. Pena wanted to talk about. So what we're doing in 2018 at Texas Pacifico is we're going to see about $15 million put into the line. This gives you an idea of where it is. So the rail line is separated into what are called subdivisions, kind of like districts. And the San Angelo subdivision is going to see about $6 million, $6.5 million reinvested. And most of that is rail relay. There's 14 miles of track that is 90-pound rail, and it dates back to about 1920. So when we have rail problems like cars kind of tilting over, those are usually in the area where you have that very historic older rail that's lighter and has seen the most sort of ton miles put on it. And we inspect constantly, but with freeze thaw and what happens with steel in that, there's always concern. So we are working as quickly as we can to get those last 14 miles removed. And when we do, that will allow our train speed to increase to 40 miles an hour. When we do that, as you can imagine, it increases capacity. There's just a few ways to increase capacity without building another parallel line, so that's one of them. The Big Lake subdivision is some track rehabilitation as well as some bridge work, which you see also up in the San Angelo subdivision. And the Alpine subdivision, the single most important project, is the reconstruction of the bridge. So right now in 2018 CapEx, we have budgeted $6 million. The bridge, I think on our side, is going to be $7.5 to $8 million. The remaining funds will come out of the 2019 CapEx. So again, just to give you an idea of how we connect to the country, to the world, you see the Ferromex line going down to the port of Topolobampo. Some of you have been there or certainly heard a lot about it if you've been dealing with the city or ports to plains and some of the trade corridors. And once the bridge is in place, what we expect to be moving is refined fuel. I've done this presentation and would have talked to you about pulp and ceramic tile and barite and zeolite and sand and cotton and fresh produce and wheat. But in the last 6 months, in the last year, 4 out of 5 calls are about moving refined fuel into Mexico. As you all know, there is a change in the way Mexico's energy works, and they're going through an energy reform process. And so there is kind of a race to get refined fuel into northern Mexico. This same route also then allows folks to move more fuel into the Permian Basin as we have more well starts and more demand for product there. I think the Permian is going to be in need of additional fuel, of course, additional frac sand, but also cement and other products where they just simply can't get enough, even into Midland and Odessa. So our rail line has some opportunity there. The press conference and event that we had, the state driving that Roland referred to, was really a great event for us. It did talk about what TxDOT is willing to do for the rail line. Of course, TxDOT is our owner, or the state of Texas is our owner. But it also mentioned some federal dollars, and I'd like to tell you about that. The bridge permit has been issued, but during that time, TxDOT also applied for what's called a fast lane grant. And the fast lane grant match is our private funds that we have allocated for the bridge. And so until the federal grant is completely executed, they don't want us to start because that would hinder those dollars being used against the federal match. So we're really kind of in a holding period. That's why we have out there that kind of June, July date. But we're seeing the attraction of federal dollars, state dollars, and of course our own company's investment. So all of this is very good to local and regional industry. You have a railroad now that operates, 24/7 with interchanges to the other railroads 7 days a week, where if you were talking about this 10 years ago, you were hearing about a train every 14 days and literally someone walking that train in to a facility to make sure there were no problems. The track was in such poor shape when we took it over. So we're very proud of where we've been, and we really appreciate the support of the community. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, now we're moving on to line item B. Consider approving the December 2017 financial statements presented by Finance Director Tina Diersky.
Good morning, Board. Tina Diersky, Director of Finance. Good to see y'all this morning. I'm going to present your first quarter financial statements. We ended the quarter just slightly over budget for revenue, which is a good thing. Sales tax revenue's been up for 8 months in a row now, so we also think that's a good thing. But we remain cautiously optimistic because we are seeing some slowing of that growth in our sister cities. For example, Midland's been up in the 30s and 40s the last several months, but this month they were only up 8%. So we're just continuing to watch that. For sales tax revenue for December was up 17.48% over the same month last year, and January was up 12.46% over the same month last year. Moving on to your ballot sheet for economic development, there's not a whole lot going on here, other than I do want to point out that our investments have yielded revenue of $28,550 so far for the first quarter, in comparison with last year's amount of $11,332 for the same time period. So we continue to see improvements there, and we're really happy about that. Moving on to your income statement, you'll see here again that increased investment revenue, which is already at $5,550 over budget. We did also have an expenditure for Park Hill and for the Houston Heart Project. And on to your ballot sheet, your balance sheet for your ballot side. Again, seeing the improved investment income with our investments here as well. And on your income statement, you'll see the increase in interest on investments compared with last year. Last year for this first quarter, interest revenue was $838, whereas this year revenue is $6,962 for the same quarter, which is already $2,962 over budget, so that's good. Not much other activity here other than a small payment for the West Texas Water Partnership. And that's all I have for the financial statements. If you have any questions for those, I'll be happy to answer them. And if not, I'll move on to the remainder of my presentation.
Board have any questions so far?
So the second thing I wanted to talk with y'all about this morning was a budget amendment that we took to City Council at their past, this most recent council meeting for the first reading. It will go for second reading on February 6th. So if you do have any questions or concerns, we could make changes on second reading. But we have discussed this a little bit in the past. We are going to increase our sales tax revenue budget to be in line with what the city originally budgeted for sales tax revenues. So your co-CDC budget for sales tax revenue will be exactly half of what the city originally budgeted, which was $17 million. So we feel like this is a good move. It allows you a little more flexibility, as well as it's still conservative, considering that sales tax is already over budget for the year. We are going to increase the budget for West Texas Water Partnership, and that is because the water department budgeted the amount of $200,000, and we feel like that should match what they budgeted, since that is a contribution that we make to cover those expenses. For debt service, we've discussed this as well a little bit in the past. This is amending for the refunding that we did back in 2012, as well as it's not quite as big an impact as you might have expected, because we did have a refunding during this current fiscal year that kind of offset that increase a little bit, so that helped out. For sports facility maintenance, the budget should have been the $285,353 for the current year, and so we're just reducing that to what it should have been originally. And then future projects, of course, we're just adjusting for what is available after these changes have been made. So that's on your ballot side. Do you have any questions on that?
There being none.
So on your economic development side, again, seeing that a little bit of an increase for the sales tax revenue. We are budgeting for the Goodfellow project at $1.5 million. That is drawing from fund balance. Lease income, we're adjusting for the Chambers lease, I believe, down a little bit for that. For Business Factory, that's just a change that was a typo in the original budget, so we're making that change since we're making the budget amendment. In Industrial Park Phase 2, we're budgeting $2 million for that project, again, drawing down the fund balance for that one. Insurance, just again, a formula error in the original budget, so we're increasing for that amount to make it correct. And future projects, again, just adjusting for any changes due to the rest of the amendment. Any questions on your economic development side? I believe we do need action on the financials.
Get a motion for financials? Mr. Tankersley?
Second.
Second by Mr. Barrio. All those in favor?
Aye.
None
Thank you.
opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Tina. Okay, moving on to line item C, consider a resolution authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a memorandum of agreement with the Concho Valley Workforce Development Board, funding up to $168,000, including $100,000 in matching funds for a Texas Workforce Commission Innovation and Opportunity High Demand Job Training Program grant in support of a Howard College construction trades program pursuant to an economic development project adopted by the board, presented by Mr. Pena.
Good morning, board members.
Morning.
Actually, we have two items that are related, having to do with the Howard College construction trades programs. The board did approve resolutions in prior board meetings. We did apply for a $100,000 grant from the Texas Workforce Commission, the Innovation and Opportunity High Demand Training Program. This is very similar to what we did with the LVN-RN program. Co-CDC approved by resolution up to $168,000 of matching funds, which is a requirement of the grant. Just to remind everyone, this initiative does involve many other stakeholders, in particular the San Angelo Home Builders Association, who helped to raise almost $500,000 in funds to build a new lab facility at Howard College. The resolution that I spoke about was approved in October. As I said, the next item is going to be related. This item has to do with a memorandum of agreement with the Concho Valley Workforce Development Board. The next item is going to be an economic development agreement with Howard College. Both items are listed separately because there are two separate action items. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, board, the staff recommends approval.
Any questions from the board? Like mentioned in the slide, it's similar to the LVN-RN program that we did about a year and a half ago. So can I get a motion for Mr. Flores, and a second. Second by Dr. Cummings. All those in favor? Aye. None opposed, motion carries. Moving on to related, line item D, consider approving a resolution authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute an economic development agreement with Howard County Junior College District to establish a self-sustaining construction trades program at San Angelo pursuant to an economic development project adopted by the board. Mr. Pena.
So I've covered the project, and as I stated, we need an economic development agreement with Howard College. However, behind me I do have Jamie Rainey and Mike Buck also, if they'd like to say anything before you take a vote.
Jamie Rainey with Howard College. Thank you so much for your support for this project, because we could not do it without your support and the community support. Our funding comes after the fact from the state of Texas on contact hours. So you already have to have a program up and running and students in a class. And tuition and fees come after the program is established. So your support is paramount to us starting this new program, which is in such a demand in our region. So thank you so much. We appreciate your consideration. Of course, I've been working with Roland and looking at the draft for the MOA, and it's very, very similar to the LV and RN, and we're ready to sign. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just want to add, I just want to give an indication of the potential of the program. We had a meeting yesterday with another private sector entity that we feel can complement the industrial trades program in the form of a technology piece element to the program. And so we're very excited about the potential that has, and we'll continue working with that private sector industry entity, and look forward to seeing the expansion perhaps of this program at Howard College. So we may be talking to you in the near future about that expansion. With that, staff recommends approval.
Any questions? None? Can we get a motion? Motion by Mr. Tankersley, second by Director Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Moving on to line item E, consider approving a resolution of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation Board of Directors authorizing the board president to execute a memorandum of understanding with Tom Green County providing local matching funds for the fall 2017 DEAA grant in support of the Goodfellow Air Force Base Training Mission Project. Mr. Pena, and I know Judge Floyd is in attendance as well.
Yes, sir. This is the second grant from the governor's office that COCDC has participated in collaboration with our local community partners, the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. Obviously, they have taken the lead in putting together the grant. Carol Ann Bonds and Mike Boyd, who's behind me, are the champions behind putting that application together. Now, since we've been awarded the grant, the fiscal agent, Tom Green County, who not only serves as a fiscal agent, but also as the project manager of the project. Now it's up to Tom Green County and COCDC to go through the legal documents and the legal requirements as required by the state grant. This does involve $1.5 million, as Tina mentioned, of matching funds from COCDC that you did approve. The project, we've leveraged $8.8 million, and it does involve renovations to approximately 2,400 square feet and 2 facilities. Additionally, it adds highly classified training rooms, support space for instructors, a psychologist, and increased dining seating for the additional of 150 personnel. I would like to ask our county judge, Steve Floyd, and or Mike Boyd, if they'd like to make any comments before you deliberate on your consideration.
Well, first off, for one, if I may take a little sidelight, every time I hear the presentation currently of the long-term vision that then State Rep Rob Janelle had, the commitment from Grupo Mexico, and see what's happening. So it's all fits into the partnership. On to this. First off, thank you to the City of San Angelo, this corporation and the board for the support of the last grant. It was a somewhat difficult structure. It involved, obviously, the county, the city, the chamber, the governor's office, Texas Military Preparedness Commission, the leadership at Goodfellow Air Force Base, 2 contractors, multiple vendors, and we got our attaboy, we're happy, you're done letter from the Military Preparedness Commission about a week ago. So thank you. We have concluded that, and that international intelligence training facility is now, I think, highly valued and utilized by Goodfellow. So with that said, we were best positioned to carry this grant and administer this grant. It is very ambitious under the guidance and champion of, again, Mike Boyd and Carol Ann Bonds. We're proud and honored to be partnered with you again, if you will consider that. We are structured to attempt to utilize all of the grant funds, state grant funds, primarily on this project first because of some time commitments. There are some expenses that aren't allowed within that grant. That is where the COSA DC fits that up. Hopefully, the complete $1.5 million will not be necessary. It actually involves, as you can see, a couple of different pretty significant projects. But we're honored to get to do that. We appreciate the help with the administration of the grant. It was very time-consuming last year, but we were best positioned to deal with it again. So I look forward to the partnership and hand it over to Mike.
Good morning, Mike Boyd. Just want to tell you how much we do appreciate it. When we made the presentation and got awarded the grant in Austin at the State Facilities Commission, just to let you know, there was over $40 million worth of request with that $25 million, and we were fully funded. They have a lot of faith in what we present and how the grant's written and what we do with the money. So we'll have that done. We're working on it by August. We've got 2 local architects that are going to be at the dining room facility project, which is great. We met with them and asked them to please bid the project. We didn't want to have to go out of town. They had a lot of other projects going, but they've agreed to do that. So we've got a fair bidding process, and we're keeping all that local. The other good news is the Military Facilities Planning Commission is now coming here in the next couple of weeks to look at how well we've handled all these projects. We've got 26 of these partnership projects that they've approved so far, obviously the most in the United States. And so we'll be going to San Diego in February, and the Air Force is giving, and the mayor will be there to receive that award, recognizing San Angelo for what they've done in the governmental side and with Goodfellow Air Force Base. So with y'all's help, we appreciate it. The good news is we're going to get it done on time, and it's going to be great. The missions we've talked about earlier are all in process. Actually, for the first time ever, the Air Combat Command General, which is a 4-star rank, will be here in May also to look at Goodfellow. ISR is still on the forefront of everything. So we'll be back for more, I'm sure. I hope those missions continue to expand. But there's a couple things in the future that we're working on that we'll bring to you as soon as we can make those announcements. Hopefully we just state and federal funding. But we want to tell you how much we appreciate you helping us. We couldn't have done it without you. And thank you all very much.
Thank you all, gentlemen.
I'll finish up, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, with a little sense of urgency. The RFSQ for the architects are due today in the county office. We have already appointed an evaluation and a contracting committee to bring a recommendation back. That architect is one of the expenditures that COSA DC has agreed graciously to cover. So with that being said, this MOU is very important to the county moving forward on our timeline, not to put any pressure on this board.
None felt.
So just to segue into what the judge just said, City Council will consider this MOU at next week's city council meeting for ratification, so we're moving it timely. You may recall that we've also already published notice and did a public hearing when we approved the resolution. So all of that is behind us, and so we ought to be able to move very swiftly.
Okay, can I get any other questions from the board before we take a vote? Can we get a motion for
I
the
will
resolution?
make that motion.
Okay, Director Barrio, second.
Second.
Director Tankersley, all those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to line item F. Consider approving a resolution authorizing the use of sales and use tax funds in a sum not to exceed $75,000 for a professional services required to develop design specifications and related construction documents for future improvements to the Sunken Garden Park, a project authorized under the Development Corporation Act, and authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with the city of San Angelo for such purposes. Director Pena.
Board members, you may recall that last month we had a presentation made by Carl White, who is in the audience as well, and Howard Taylor. It was a very comprehensive presentation, and you directed staff to bring forth a recommendation to you. So staff has brought a MOU for the city of San Angelo to be able to conduct their study to determine design specifications for these improvements. It is related to the construction documents that were talked about last month. We feel that the project has the potential to attract more tourists and the potential for new businesses to be attracted to our area. Just to remind the board, the San Angelo area Museum of Fine Arts and those involved have already raised from the private sector over $220,000 in the past 5 years to help create that sculptor garden in the Sunken Garden Park. So with that, staff recommends approval of the $75,000 expenditure for the professional services and the MOU. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have. And Carl is also here in case.
Any board questions for Carl or Roland?
What was going to be the total bill on this?
We,
75, I think.
well, we had an estimated amount of up to, I can't remember if it was near 68,000. Carl, you made for professional services. We made it for 75,000. I do remember that we had estimated, they were estimating, their initial request was for somewhere around $700,000, but this would be the first step to be able to determine and refine those numbers.
That's where this would step in and figure out if that's
correct. This was the concept plans that they had at the time, but we really need to refine that with some design.
This is to decide what the grand total would be in the grand scope of things. This is, from my understanding, this is kind of the layout, because it was not professionally engineered. They're seeking that that designation or those dollars to
Get the ball rolling.
get the. In other words, yes, sir.
Actual design, so we
Actual
can
designs,
make,
yes.
yeah, so that we can make better estimates, because all we had was concept.
As I recall, the first time we were approached was in the hopes of obtaining funds for the whole project, and we asked them to come back with bite-sized pieces, and this is simply the first bite. A very logical first step, and I'll make the motion we approve.
Any other questions? Okay. Motion by Director.
I have
oh,
one
wait.
other question. Is this going to also establish a timeline about how long it's going to take to do this? I mean, what's the $75,000 going to be used? Can I get any details about what this 75 is going to cover? I'm just trying to. I want to see what the long term look at this
75,000 is for to go through the process of finishing the conceptualization of the improvements and actually end up with construction documents with which we'll have a really good estimate of what the final cost would be. And my understanding, the memorandum requires that those designs be done within 12 months. And we'll report back to the Development Corporation the progress of those plans and the end result of that.
think he's looking for the project timeline. It'll cover that one.
The project timeline after we do the construction documents, it really depends on the fundraising.
That piece is important because I think there's going to be additional private sector funds to add to what the request may be, because that's something that the board asked, additional participation from the community. So I think that's an important key item for you.
Any other questions? We do have a motion to approve by Director Barrio on the floor, and I get a second.
Second.
Okay, second by Director Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Motion carries. Moving on to item G, consider approving the termination and release of performance agreement with Data Management, Inc., doing business as Time Clock Plus. Director Pena.
Board members, we have an original agreement with Time Clock Plus that was executed in August 31st of 2015. COCDC did pay the $326,000 in incentives as part of that agreement, primarily job creation, and I believe there was some funds for the improvements made at the facility. Time Clock has provided a letter that you have before you. Let me have a copy of that, Bob. So they communicated with us in early January that they wanted to return the funds and felt that they had done so well in the prior year and felt that these funds would better benefit another business entity. And we respect their desire. We've talked to legal, and what you see before you is the request to terminate and release them from any obligations, and vice versa. Both parties will be released from any obligations in that agreement. With your approval, these $326,000 will be then returned to the COCDC funds in future projects budget line item. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, I would recommend approval.
Questions from the board?
So moved.
Okay. Director Tankersley and second by Flores. Any, sorry, no questions before the vote? Okay. Motion from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Moving on to item H, presentation by staff of 2017 end-of-year report by Mr. Pena.
Board members, we're going to take a different approach. We've done this in different ways in prior years. We do work with, we have a program of work that basically guides us. It's sort of our roadmap for our initiatives and the work that staff wants to accomplish. As part of that, the Chamber of Commerce has a section in there. We're going to have Michael Looney speak first. And then every one of the staff members has a section that they're going to contribute. I'm going to stand, or I'm going to be on the side being a cheerleader, and I may have some comments after they complete their presentation. This shouldn't take very long.
Good morning, COCDC Board. Roland informed me that I have 5 minutes, and so we're going to all see if I can actually do this in 5 minutes. So Bob's got the stopwatch, and I've got the clicker here. So anyway, good to be with you. Thanks so much for having us, and we really appreciate the partnership, and we've got some really good news to report. We had a really, really strong 2017, and we're really proud of our accomplishments, working in conjunction with Chamber staff and, of course, our other economic development partners. Just a kind of brief overview, the Chamber of Commerce, for those who don't know, maybe people watching on TV, the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Department partners with and is contracted by COSA DC to conduct the marketing activities to recruit new employers, attract new jobs, and increase capital investment in the San Angelo area. And we do this with we have a number of objectives. We target industries that are most compatible with San Angelo. These are your primary job creators. These are not retailers. These are companies that manufacture, fabricate, or even energy service companies. We've, throughout the year, conducted a number of San Angelo prospect tours with these companies. We are a very valuable resource to these companies, as I will explain in a little bit. And relationship building is really the key to any transaction. In target marketing, we have reviewed all of our accomplishments for the year. We did send out, this slide is slightly modified, but I wanted to go over what is actually in your packet, so you're going to notice that this slide's slightly different. We delivered 20 response packages and 1 formal proposal. It may say 2 because we actually had one company that received 2 formal proposals from us after some negotiations. We hosted 11 companies for inbound visits and made external site visits to 3 of them. Where it says inbound, outbound, that number 20 is actually incorrect. It actually is 11. But the 20 may include some companies that are near the area that we would still probably consider San Angelo area companies that we did reach out to. And I'll explain more about why that happened in a little bit. We marketed a total of 20 properties, 20 commercial facilities and pieces of land. And we were able to help facilitate the leasing of 2 of those parcels and the sale of 1. The total capital investment resulted in over $6 million, and the annual economic impact of these successful relocations will yield an estimated $61 million per year. That's annual. When we did our calculations, we were really conservative about it. We didn't want to really go out for a 3 or a 5-year horizon, so we just kept it to 1 year. And the combination of those transactions that we were involved with recruiting came to an estimated $61 million per year. In transaction successes, we secured a commitment from RW Senior Housing Development. This is a company with its headquarters in Austin and another one in Tennessee to construct and operate a 48,000 square foot, around a $10 million project. This would be a skilled nursing facility pending state approval. We have been in communication with them regularly, and as last week, state approval looks good. One of the things that I wanted to mention about this project, this company is very, very interested in Howard College's LVN to RN program. And in fact, we met with Michelle Trubenstein, who is the director of that program out at the St. John's campus. And the 2 owners of the company had an excellent meeting with her and had some initial discussions on how the LVN to RN program could be incorporated into this facility. This facility is going to hire about 90 people. And we're expecting, as soon as we get state approval, which again supposedly looks good from what we're told, they'd be looking for land sometime in the spring. Karen Transportation, this is a company that we helped recruit, this is a company that we've worked with in the past that we identified as Project Highway during some negotiations. They're an international trucking company. We assisted Mr. Cordell, who's the general manager of that company, to expand from a 2.5 acre facility on Jackrabbit Trail to a 10 acre facility on Arden Road. They have 45 employees. They have hired an extra 30 people, or in the process thereof doing, and they're going to be bringing a fleet of trucks down from the Bakken Play up in North Dakota. It's about 10 vehicles. This was a deal that we were really proud of because they came to us, they asked us if we could assist them, and while they're hauling a lot of frac sand and ramping up their operation, it was really impressive, and it really showed what's going on in our region and in the Permian Basin, in that they're actually transferring a number of their vehicles and drivers and fleets down to the Permian Basin area, which of course is the play that we service here. U.S. Well Service, this is a company that came in very late in the year. We met them in November. This is a national well service company from the Northeast. They do have a headquarters in Houston, and they committed to leasing a property on Arden Road, and this was the former Select Energy Services building. So what's significant, and again, one last one is Dragon Products, which you probably may have seen in the paper. This is an international industrial fabrication company based out of Beaumont, Texas. They purchased, we started working with them in June of last year, went through a series of negotiations. We offered to discuss any potential incentives that they might need. They said that's not why we're here. The main critical factor is workforce. And we were in competition with another city about 125 miles to the northwest. They had another facility. One of their main concerns was workforce. They really don't prefer a transitory workforce. They want people who will stay. They want people who like living in their area, where they have their families, where they're grounded, and where they will consistently work and excel through as they graduate through the company. They don't want transient workers, because these are very highly skilled fabricators and draftsmen and shop foremen. They ended up buying the NOV plant. That is the plant that was located at Sideview Road. It's basically about 8 miles to the northwest of town on 87. If some of you may remember seeing the NOV plant, it was a very large facility. It's 117,000 square feet in size, sitting on 19.4 acres. It has created an initial 125 jobs. And when we ran our calculation yields, which was done by Shannon Scott with COSA-DC, we calculated out approximately $45 million annual total impact. And again, that's annual. That's not a 5 or 10-year projection. That was a really significant transaction, along with U.S. Well Services and Karen Transportation. And the reason why we're really proud of those and our involvement and our economic development partners, which we got involved. I also want to throw a plug in for Contra Valley Workforce. They have been awesome to deal with, and we partner with them very heavily. And the reason for that is because most of these companies that we interact with, they have got to know that they've got stable workforce in this community. And there are other communities in our general region that really can't boast that without stealing people from other companies. Now, clearly, there's going to be a little bit of that's going to happen. You're also, like U.S. Well Services, going to import their people, their workers, their skilled technicians. When you consider it, 156,000 square feet of commercial real estate was taken off the market within about an 8-month period with these transactions. And these weren't the only transactions that were done in San Angelo commercially, but these are the ones that your chamber touched and was very involved with. 156,000 square feet of real estate. So you've got the NOV facility, 117,000 square feet. You've got Select Energy Services, which had sat vacant for over 2 years. Very nice facility, built in 2014. And Globe Energy, also on Arden Road, which was constructed in 2014. And these are properties that had sat vacant for between 1 and 2 years. And so we were really, really pleased to see that property back in service, back in the tax base, and being used for what it's for. A quick look, current transactions. Project Long Run's a Houston-based oil and gas company that we're in discussions with. Project Air is an air medical transportation company, Rotor Wing. Project Mountain is a national infrastructure company. Probably the biggest accomplishment in my mind, as far as the chamber organization, the economic development department, is the creation and implementation of the San Angelo Regional Manufacturers Alliance. This is San Angelo's Manufacturers Association. We call it an alliance. It is run through the chamber. The chamber is the organization that actually operates it. We have a database of 82 companies and growing. These are manufacturers, fabricators, and energy service sector companies. These are the companies that are the primary employers. These are the companies that make up the backbone of our economy. There are a lot of different programs that are going to come out of this and that we're already planning with our advisory committee. And in fact, we actually have members of our advisory committee here representing Ethicon, Pitts Oilfield Services, Industrial Hydraulics, and Texas Pacifico. One of the main facets of this is business-to-business recruiting. There are a lot of companies that are SARMA members, those who are on our database have relationships with around the country. An excellent tool for recruiting new companies is those relationships which they have with their suppliers or with companies that they work with. And already I can tell you there are two potential transactions, I should say, that we're engaged with as a direct result of these relationships that we have with our SARMA members. One of the main basic tenets of the SARMA is trust. their Chamber of Commerce and the economic development partners need to build a relationship with our existing fabricators, energy service companies, and manufacturers to build that trust relationship. If you look at the 1,100 members of the Chamber of Commerce, for example, very few of them are manufacturers and fabricators, energy service companies. We have a few, but not as many as you might think. We have already started to see an increase in the level of interaction with the Chamber from these manufacturers in the market. And that is because we believe that the SARMA is providing a service that has been needed. We're in the process of putting together a manufacturer's survey, which the data of which will be delivered to the city and to COSA-DC staff, trying to understand a little bit more about what kinds of needs our fabricators and manufacturers have. And then also one of the nicest things about the SARMA is that it creates an opportunity for business-to-business networking. We had a social in January hosted at West Texas Industrial Engines, and it was very successful. And it was one of those situations where we got all of the manufacturers that attended in the room and had a dinner, and then we just stepped back, and it just became wild networking. It was really, really fun to see. It was very progressive. And it was really interesting to see how many different companies have so much in common that may know of each other, but they've never really interacted with each other. And so we think those synergies are going to be a really, really important part of business retention and expansion, advocating for these companies at the local and state level, and also assistance in recruiting these companies. Real quick, we marketed 20 properties, and when I say marketed, they were on our website, they were on flyers that we pushed out to potential interested parties. We also toured these properties with our prospects. There's a total of 20 of them. Of those 20, these are the 3 that we touched and that we were involved with that ended up selling or leasing. Go forward marketing, 2017 marketing recruitment initiatives, kind of a final look back. We launched the SARMA project. We've conducted 4 technical advisory committee meetings. As I said, some of those members are here with us today. We had our reception at the West Texas Industrial Engines factory. We're in the process of finishing the first of 4 Industries in San Angelo videos. This is a video series similar to what the CVB produces, focused on San Angelo industry. And we think these are going to be really powerful because there's so much more going on than meets the eye when you're in San Angelo with regards to our manufacturing sector. 82 companies in manufacturing, fabrication, and energy services on our database alone. We're also in the business of getting ready to do our primary employers business survey and then continue pushing out the good word in the media. Concludes the Chamber report. We really appreciate the partnership. We appreciate the trust, and we're very proud of our work. We're proud of our relationship with COSA-DC. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. And if you wanted to talk to any of the SARMA members now or after the meeting, we'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks very much.
Questions from the board?
Very good. We
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning. As the board knows, I'm Bob Schneeman with the city's Economic Development Department, and I'm going to cover very briefly our business retention and expansion program, goals and objectives, or goals and achievements from 2017. Local industry support. This is a graph that sort of shows our goals in light green for 2017 and our achievements in the darker green for 2017. Apparently, the part of the legend got cut off here. So for local industry support, this is letters and that sort of thing that we've written in support of local industry or local entities. And we did a total of 6. Our goal was 3. Excuse me. These included anything from a support letter for Small Business Development Center, of course, all the effort that was put into Goodfellow Air Force Base that culminated in that grant, and a number of others. As far as retained jobs, we had a goal of 200 indirect retained jobs. We actually achieved through our agreements when they're completed to their ultimate of 291. Retained jobs direct, we had a goal of 150, and again, if all the economic development agreements reach full potential, instead of 150, that will be 210. New jobs indirect, we had a goal of 100, and we achieved 265. Similarly, new jobs direct, we had a goal of 50, and we achieved 314. Economic development agreements, we had a goal of 6, and we only did 5. However, I'll show you in a minute on another slide, we actually exceeded the capital investment and the jobs, even though we had 1 less. Retention visits, we had a goal of 30 and did 31, and to get those 31, we did over 70 cold calls. And I want to express to everybody that it's very important. This is a team effort. Everybody in our office was doing cold calls as they had time. We took a list of, like I say, 70-some companies, split it up, and everybody did the calling and setting up interviews. And then we went out and did the interviews for those who are interested, and we will follow up with everybody else as it goes along. On appreciation events, we had a goal of doing 2, one in the spring and one in the fall, and we did both of those, as most of you know. And then our awareness campaign, we have an ongoing awareness campaign, and we're going to show some new ideas here in a minute. Okay, well, Roland will bring those up. We're working with Lamar Advertising. This is something we're going to try. We're doing some billboard advertising for the Business Retention Expansion Program. We really kicked this thing around a lot on how we're going to do it, whether or not we were going to try to, I mean, how do you explain what BREP is on a billboard? So what we decided to do was we created that link that you see on there, the www.cosatx.us/BREP, and it takes you to a specific page on our website that deals with BREP and outlines all of the requirements and the different incentives that are available. Right now, we are doing what they call gap advertising. When they have a gap on a particular billboard, they let us know. We have one, the blue billboard is going to be a permanent one that we can move from billboard to billboard. And then the green one, I believe it costs us like $150 to get that one done, and that's a one-time thing. And so our first trial is going to be on 87 North. We'll have one up for a week. And then on Knickerbocker, we'll have one up for 2 weeks. And we'll kind of see how that goes, see what we get, and then we'll move on from there. That was just one of the things that we're thinking about doing. As far as the financial impact of all of this, we had a goal of an economic output of $40 million. If everything comes to fruition, we will see an economic output of about $138 million. Similarly, capital investment, we had a goal of $15 million. We achieved $22 million if all of the economic development agreements go to their fullest. Do you want to take questions now, Roland, or?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Questions from the board?
If you have no questions, I want to add some additional information. All the details are covered in the program of work that's part of your board packet, but I was reviewing the information last night, and Bob talked about the letters of support, and just putting a pencil to those letters of support and what they yielded. Obviously, all the partners are working together, and we support each other, and we ask for these letters of support. But one of the letters of support yielded the Small Business Person of the Year, Principal LED, Brian Vincent. And so we got to attend a conference in San Antonio along with SBDC, who did the nomination. And then I looked at the other letters of support that we submitted. One was for Goodfellow Air Force Base, that you've heard is going to yield an $8.8 million project. Another letter of support was to the San Angelo Health Foundation for the Howard College Construction Trades Program that yielded an additional $74,000. You add another $500,000 that the home builders have already contributed, and then we had another letter of support that went in for the Wagner Pizer grant, and that yielded $161,000 for the certification of our workforce. So just to give you an idea, that's about $9.8 million worth of funds that we're leveraging as a result of your support and those letters of recommendation.
Also, just to follow up with that, on the economic development agreements that we did get signed this year included Principal LED, Netco Energy Products. Of course, we did the land sale and what's now under construction for AEP out at the industrial park. Detmar Logistics and Elite Solutions were the other two. So.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you for the presentation.
It was a good year.
Okay, moving on to line item I, update presentation by Roland Pena, Economic Development Director, on the following: the I-14 Gulf Coast.
President, we're not done.
Oh, we're not
Yes,
done.
we have several sections. Nora is up with entrepreneurial.
Forget me.
Excuse me.
Okay. Good morning, Board. So before you, business factory contracts. As you can see, our goal was for 2, shy by 1. But just for our new board members and for our viewers, what the business factory contract is that when we have a client that approaches us regarding a business, a startup business, and they're seeking an office space, we do have that at the Business Resource Center. It's the Business Factory. It's an incubator program. So the contract is between us and that client so that they can have a good office space. Business plan agreement and the business plan competition. Those two go hand in hand. We were very successful with the business plan competition for 2017. We were able to lock in 3 contracts. As I go into my presentation a little bit more, I'll remind you as to who those winners were. And the development marketing plan that has been developed, and that will begin use of that this year. So we hope that with that marketing plan in place, that we should increase our business factory clients so that we can fill those spaces up. Activity at the Business Resource Center. Based on last year's goal, we had asked, our goal was set to exceed by 10%. So we did achieve that, as a matter of fact, by 20%. So we've had that many more events there at the Business Resource Center. Due to the lack of clients, majority of our clients use our conference room and our training rooms, and because we're not at full capacity with clients, we saw a decline in that number. On the business factory, the performances, we do request that our clients report to us quarterly, and so I do keep up with their gross sales and their gross payroll. But for our viewers, to just give a little bit more about what the Business Factory is, it is an incubator program to assist entrepreneurs in the formation and the development of a new enterprise so that those enterprises can survive and succeed. To do so, the incubator program offers a supportive setting to entrepreneurs as they develop their business concept into viable commercial enterprises. It is important to note our return of investment based on the bar graph outlined in red. As you can see, Costa DC's funding. You can see Costa DC's funding into the program, and the green bars indicate the return of investment in the form of total sales revenue, which is $744,295, and a total payroll of $1,518,847. With the the development marketing plan, we hope to gain more incubator clients because we're going to go with a different strategy. We'll be marketing quite a bit for that. As I said, for the business plan competition in 2017, the first place winner was HR Onboarding Solutions, LLC, and they provide an electronic form transaction solution that integrates into third-party software systems, seamlessly eliminating the need for paper forms, manual processes, and manual data entry, which they won $25,000. They have been doing amazing. Second place was Moontime. Now, she is a new startup manufacturing a monthly subscription membership box of healing products designed specifically for women and young ladies during the Moontime cycle. And her prize was $20,000. And third place was Longhorn Coffee Company. I believe everyone knows who Longhorn is. I see them every time at Market Street. And they offer fresh roasted and blended coffees, produces and sells specialty coffee sold at local community events and grocery stores and online. And they won $15,000. You may recall back in November, we announced the kickoff for the business plan competition for 2018. That is underway, and hope all of you have seen the advertising for that competition. Our first deadline is February the 5th, and at that point, business overview is what's being requested by February the 5th, 5 o'clock. So their business overview and their application is due at that point. Roland, do you have anything else?
How many do we have so far?
So far right now, myself, I know that I have been asked about it, I've been approached about it, and I've only had 2. But that's not to say that we're not going to have a lot. They always wait to the last. Yes, they do.
Okay.
Are we
Yes.
still working with ASU, with
Yes,
Dr.
we are.
Jones?
Yeah, the business plan competition cannot be a success without ASU, SBDC, and the College of Business. Without them, we can't have successful. They've
Are
been
we promoting there
tremendous
at
help.
ASU?
Yes, we are, and
Yes.
and Nora's right on target. They have the resources. They've done it for many years, and they're good at it, and so we cannot do it without them. I do want to say that we've had 2 good successful years. 2 years ago we had 20 applicants. Last year we had 40 applicants. So perhaps this year we can top that. The other data point that I think is important that is not mentioned and not part of the bar graph is we've helped to create 525 jobs since inception of that business factory, and I think that's important.
Yes.
We're working on new research techniques so that we can keep up with these companies, because all you have there is data after they graduate, and we want to keep up with them. For example, we know a very successful company like BEPC who has grown tremendously. So those jobs that they've created, we don't have the data nor the revenue. But anyway, I think that's a pretty good success story.
Roland, would you please repeat the number of jobs created?
525.
Wonderful.
535, I apologize, 535.
Okay. Anything else?
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's first and second place this year?
That is
Okay.
correct, yes. And the prize money did increase. So
What is the prize money?
prize money now is, I just went blank. It's $60,000, so we're, first prize is definitely,
I don't remember.
I don't remember now. But, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Nora.
You put me there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have workforce development coming up.
Good morning, Board. Sarah Lamog, Work Ready Community Vista. I am excited to spotlight these accomplishments from this past year because not only did we meet our goals, we exceeded them. To kick things off, the $75,000 that were support for funding for the RN program at Howard College was so successful. It yielded 24 RN graduates back in July in their first cohort. 12 of those RNs were hired at Shannon, and 21 of those RN graduates also earned their work-ready community certification. So we're really excited about having this go into another cohort. In addition to that, the continued support of Howard College with recognition of a program, again, that was that LVN to RN bridge program, as well as the construction trades program that's on the horizon. And last but not least, the new program or curriculum with Howard College and Angelo State University is, again, as Roland mentioned earlier, the Howard College Construction Trades Program. Any questions about the numbers here? Okay. Moving on to the specific Tom Green County Work Ready Community Initiative. These were goals that were set both by the ACT organization and the Texas Workforce Commission through the Wagner-Pizer grant. In just a short span of 10 months, we gained 108 supporting local employers, but we were only mandated to gain 68. So a tremendous effort on that, especially by Concho Valley Workforce Solutions. In terms of actually certifying the local workforce, our goals were set into 3 different categories. Transitioning, so those are your everyday job seekers, dislocated workers. We served 578, so double the amount of what we were mandated to serve. In addition to that, we were also mandated to serve currently employed or incumbent workers, and with the support of local employers such as Ethicon and Shannon Medical, we served 347 of those currently employed workers as opposed to just a mere 40. And last but not least, we also are serving everyday students, high school students, Howard College students, ASU students, SAISD, the CTE program. We secured service for 272 students, again, exceeding our goal there. So we're on track to expand this exciting program. We secured a second-year funding through the Texas Workforce Commission for $161,000. In addition to that, adjacent counties are on board and have applied to roll out the Work Ready Community Initiative in their counties as well. And we're also submitting a RFP for a second VISTA to help with that regional growth. So I think that these numbers show a compelling case to keep encouraging and fostering workforce development initiatives. And again, I'm really happy to be a part of the team. So any questions?
I'd like to add to what Sarah has said so far, just so that you realize some of the successes. So we're the second county in the state of Texas to have our workforce certified. This is something that is coveted by many counties, many states, many regions throughout the nation. This is what Site Selection Magazine says. The reason why states are so successful is because they seek to get their workforce certified. And I think we've piqued the interest of the San Angelo Manufacturers Association. I think they're going to be getting a presentation from Sarah in the near future. I've got to brag on Sarah. It was a needed resource. She's become our project manager. Both Mike Buck and I realized this. We did an MOU with Workforce Development and ASU, and she's been able to help elevate the program. Pretty much the success of the grant. She wrote the grant, and with a little input from Mike Buck and myself. The other thing is that because we were so successful, ACT was so impressed that in their national conference in Austin, they asked us to come speak as to what are those lessons learned and how should a community, what should they do as partnerships to get this started and get a community certified. And I think we were very proud to represent San Angelo back in November. Mike Buck, myself, and Sarah were there to present along with Kilgore out of Gregg County.
Thank you.
Good morning, Board. Shannon Scott with the City of San Angelo Development Corporation. So some of you may or may not know, but part of my job responsibilities include administrative assistance with our TIERS program. So I wanted to touch on that. First of all, we set a goal last year in 2017 for 7 TIERS-funded agreements. We wound up with 16 for the year. So essentially that breaks down to we had 8 agreements in the north and 8 in the south. The ones in the north included Windland Manufacturing, La Carbonera, which is nearing completion of their project, Western Sky Steakhouse, which has completed their project, 2821 North Chadbourn, 2829 North Chadbourn, 112 West 29th Street, which is Hirschfeld Industries, and they're about halfway complete as well, Netco Energy Products, and BG's. For the south, those projects included 23 West Beauregard, 28 North Chadbourn, 59 North Chadbourn, 113 is East Tewig, which has completed their project, 220 North Chadbourn, 236 West 2nd, which is Jost Lawn and Landscape, and they have completed their project, 30 North Chadbourn, and 32 North Chadbourn. Now you'll notice some of those don't have business names associated with them. They are addresses. More times than not, that's a company that does not have a tenant just yet, but they are redoing their facility and doing improvements. So the hope is obviously to have a tenant occupy that facility at some point. Just to give you an update on where we stand so far for 2018, typically throughout the year we have about 2 or 3 TIERS funding cycles depending on the funding availability. So the first one for 18 kicked off in November and ended December 31st. So as a result of that, we already have 12 potential applicants that submitted applications. We will take that to the TIERS board next month for their approval or denial of those projects. So it's already looking pretty good for 2018. As far as memberships, Ports to Plains, and I-14 conferences, again, we set a goal of 4, and we did meet that goal. In February of last year, we did have Roland and Councilman Tommy Hebert attend the I-14 Gulf Coast Strategic Coalition that was held in Austin. Also that same month, we did have Director Barrio and former Councilwoman Charlotte Farmer attend the I-27 meeting in Austin. In April of last year, we had the Ports to Plains congressional trip held in Washington, D.C., and that was attended by Councilman Lane Carter. And finally, in September of last year, we had the annual Ports to Plains conference that was held in Lubbock that was attended by Mayor Gunter, Director Barrio, and myself. For development agreements, we had a goal of 2. We did exceed that goal by meeting 3 of those agreements. The details of those include March of last year, the board approved $100,000 for engineering studies for the TxDOT set-aside program. Also that same month, the sewer main extension into Phase 2 of the industrial park was approved by the board. And then in April of 17, we had $750,000 that was set aside for the next 5 years for the Chadbourn Streetscape project. Finally, for infrastructure projects, we set a goal of 2, and we did meet that goal as well. Both of these instances occurred in April of last year. We had $165,000 that was approved by the board to provide the telecom fiber at the industrial park. We also had the professional services agreement that was approved with GrantWorks for the EDA grant application, preparation, and submission for the infrastructure improvements that will be conducted in Phase 2 of the industrial park. So along with those goals, we did have capital investment goals that we did set. So for the TIERS funded agreements, we had a goal of $300,000, which again was to coincide with the 7 agreements that we set in place. The actual results was a little bit over $2 million in capital investment with the 16 agreements that were approved. As far as the development agreements, there was not a goal set in place. However, the end result was pretty substantial at $61 million. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to add some comments
sir.
if you have no questions. As I review the information and just all I'm trying to do is highlight your successes. I mean, these were great accomplishments. Just to kind of reinforce what Shannon spoke about, she mentioned the EDA grant, and she mentioned the Chadburn project, and there's also a Zimmerman project where Costa DC loaned $20,000, but we yielded a $10 million project, capital investment, and then the $100,000 for infrastructure for sewer line that is a part of the Tom Green County Jail. That's a $50 million project in total. All of those projects totaled about $89.6 million. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about infrastructure and capital investment, and how both of those complement each other, and what we're seeking to help make a higher economic impact for our community.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentations. Now we are moving on to line item I, updated presentation by Roland Pena with I-14 Gulf Coast Strategic Highway Coalition meeting in Washington, D.C., Economic Development Assistance Grant submitted to the U.S. Department of Commerce for funding infrastructure improvements at the San Angelo Business and Industrial Park.
Board members, did you want to take a break before we go into this? You've been sitting for a while, and we've been doing a lot of talking.
I would say just finish up, and then we're about to go to closed session.
Oh,
so
okay, let's finish up.
if y'all are okay with that. Okay.
Rolling.
All right. And it's going to be kind of a joint presentation on this I-14 trip to Washington, D.C. I'm going to ask our Director Dindal, myself, to assist Roland in it. Director Coles was not able to attend today's meeting, and he helped kind of spearhead this presentation. So we'll be in helping Roland along the way with this presentation, since we just went last week, Wednesday through Friday. We returned on Friday. Accompanied with us were also the mayor and Judge Floyd. So we'll kind of kick off and kind of tag team this presentation, if you will.
So Todd Coles was going to do this presentation today, and these are all his slides, and he had a lot of notes, copious notes, and he had an excellent presentation. I'm afraid we're not going to be able to do it justice. His youngest child was sick today, and so he had to stay home. Bill Dindal did attend with us, and so we're going to also rely on him to kind of help fill in when we need to. So we did fly out on Wednesday. This is the offices of Larry Myers, who is the consultant that I-14 utilizes for a lot of their legislative affairs. We did call this day the I-14 Day in Washington, D.C. We had representatives from 3 different states, Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And this is his office, and obviously you see Mayor Gunter and Bill there as well. At the head table is Larry Myers. Congressman Babin is the original author of the original I-14 bill, and he is from Texas. We were able to meet with only congressional staff, and most of them were the chief of staff. So we met with the chief of staff for Congressman Babin. His name was Ben Kuig, I believe, and he was with us. Our goal that week was two-prong. One was to seek a legislative caucus of these legislators or members of Congress who were willing to participate in the caucus strictly for information purposes, to share information and stay educated on the I-14 efforts. This is another one of the congressional delegates. We learned most of these are very, very influential members of Congress. Kevin Brady is also along the I-14. We stopped there. This is another couple of shots as we're doing our spiel. The other piece that we wanted or we were seeking as a coalition was being able to sponsor a bill for the amendment from Brady to San Angelo to Midland, and co-sponsor, all up and down I-14. So now we've gone beyond the Fort Polk to Brady to Ariane, but we're asking the amendment to San Angelo, Midland, and connection to El Paso, and then take it from Fort Polk and move that further through Louisiana and Mississippi. All the different state representatives were on board, so we all were advocating for the same two-pronged goal. This was a meeting in Congressman Conaway's office, who obviously you are aware by now filed the bill just the Friday before, and we had a couple of articles that came out in Midland Reporter News, very timely when we were up there, and we were able to utilize that information. Lots of data. James Beecham from Motran in D.C. was just tremendous. He had a lot of data about the Permian Basin, and I know that Bill Dindal, our director, has a lot of that data. You want to kind of help me out with that data and what he mentioned in the Permian Basin bill?
Sure. The Midland representative that was there was from the Midland Transport District, and he was.
Is it on? Is it on, Bill?
Check. Yes, it should be. Yes, it's on.
Okay.
He was telling us that the top 16 producers in the Permian Basin area intend to drill over the next 10 years 110,000 new wells, which constitutes an economic impact of private dollars of about $1 trillion. Now, those 16 producers make up 45% of the market there, so that's only a piece of the pie that they're expecting for that development in the Permian Basin. So, saying that, a transportation route to the coast is going to be valuable only because they're telling us that the refining process and the refining facilities in El Paso are at capacity. The refining facilities in Oklahoma are at capacity or near capacity, and so the next best option to get that product to refining facility is Corpus Christi or Beaumont. They're also saying that Houston is trying to diversify away from a total amount of energy. So if we could get that product, not only oil and gas, but also cotton, fiber products, any sort of food products that we need to get to those ports would certainly be more valuable to have some sort of interstate transportation system to get it there even more efficiently. Also, as a side note, with our location in the midst of where we're at, our schools are traveling back and forth from Midland, Odessa on a regular basis, and also some of our sports teams and academic teams are traveling also to the Killeen, Waco area to play, and that's a Tuesday, Friday event in most cases. So our buses that are traveling over 1 million miles a year just to get our students to population basis so they can compete. So an interstate route from San Angelo to either Midland, Odessa, or to even the Central Texas area is going to be vital for safety and security and long-term effects for our school district too.
Mr. President, you want to add anything?
Just want to add that the other representatives with us, I mean, extending all the way down to Jasper, and then our Midland reps, and all of us were singing the same, the same tune in the sense that, Killeen also showed up, and they've already have their designation, but just to have that strong support statewide was very impressive. With San Angelo having great representation with the number that we took, did speak high volumes to the congressional staff that we met with. We also had separate emails after visiting with them, just saying thank you for your support out in West Texas. So that's very huge. Having the support from Midland is a great support as well. Just in what they're dealing with out there, obviously we can piggyback on the growth and successes that they have and what the interstate would do for us. So I just want to add that as well.
Just a couple more slides. I've got to tell you, County Judge Steve Floyd, Mayor Brenta Gunter did an excellent job as our leads into the meetings. The staff was very inquisitive. I mean, they asked a lot of questions, and we had what was ideal was that we had a lot of answers for them. All the answers. I don't think there was any question unanswered. I'm just going to show you one final picture. This was our last meeting, but this is the entire group that went. And then this is the map as it looks today. The outlined orange is what we're seeking to amend. And we came back, I guess, feeling pretty good about all the meetings. We understand that in order for this to happen, we are thinking that the avenue will be the infrastructure bill. And you heard the president speak about that last night. I think he mentioned $1.5 trillion is what he wants allocated in the infrastructure bill. So we're hopeful that that will happen. Otherwise, we would have to wait until the transportation bill, which may be 2020. But so we'll be monitoring that and staying in close contact with our congressional offices. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank y'all for being our voices.
Thank you.
The next item is this Economic Development Assistance Grant update. It's very brief. Just want to let you know that we noticed this month that we have submitted the final application to EDA. It is posted on our website. In fact, that published notice went out 3 consecutive days as a requirement of the federal government. And since then, obviously, we had the government shut down. So there's a bit of delay there, and we have the potential of having another shutdown. However, our EDA representative who handles this portion of Texas, she's based out of Albuquerque. I spoke to her yesterday as I conveyed to her that we were having our meeting today, and I wanted to provide an update. That district has advocated to separate the funds because they tell us that the project looks so good for us. And obviously, she mentioned that no project has ever gone this far and not been funded, but there's no guarantee. We are going engineering and environmental reviews that is being conducted by a portion of the federal government right now. And the only lingering bump on the road will be this continuing resolution if we don't get that resolved. But we're hopeful. We're hopeful, and we're continuing to press on with AEP and also EDA. But we're ready in the event that we're unable to get that grant. Any questions?
Questions, board? We are now moving on to our closed session, executive session, under the provision of Government Code Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to requirement that meetings be open under the following sections. Section A, Section 551.0872, to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive with a company that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the governmental body, and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations. Line item B, Section 551.072, deliberations about real property regarding 17.58 acres parcel of real property fronting on Houston Hart Expressway within an area bounded by Southwest Boulevard, Sherwood Way, and Sunset Drive, and regarding lease agreement at 69 North Chadbourne Street. It is now 10:09, and we're going into executive session. The DC is out of executive session. Moving on to line item 7. No items are coming out of executive session, and there are no future agenda items on hand. So with that said, we are now needing a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Tankersley, second by Director Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now adjourned.